Hi, everybody. Hey, Sean. Sean, I got your stuff. Thanks for that today. Sending that stuff to me. I got it all, so I'll be ready for that. Alright, there's quite a bit of people on here. Alright, tonight what I'm going to do tonight is, I'm going to prove that there was no reason whatsoever for my daughter to be sent to Montgomery County's coroner office as an accident. And all the documents that I'm going to show you guys, they are my documents. They're what I got. And I'm just going to prove that Fayette County knew what they were doing. And then I'm going to explain why I believe they did what they did. And then since there's no music or anything, I can see your guys' comments and stuff, and I'll be able to answer any questions or anything. So what started off was, this is about my daughter who was sexually assaulted and murdered, and the house was set on fire that my little girl was at. Alright, Sean. Thanks, buddy. And, like I said, I can prove that this whole entire investigation of my daughter's crime was covered up. There's no other way you can look at it. I know people are saying that, oh, I don't believe that. It's unbelievable. I don't see how law enforcement would do such a thing. But I can tell you right now, with all the documents I have and everything, I can prove it. I can also prove, pretty much like the coroner was saying, that, you know, things weren't done right, things weren't handled right, communication never happened. And I can show you documents that I'm going to show tonight that just amazes me on how everything was done and conducted. And I can tell you right now, Vernon Stanforth was conducting this investigation. He was in charge of it. He was conducting it. He became involved in it when he arrived at the scene and left with my daughter's body to the hospital. But the thing of it is, what happened was my daughter was sent to Fayette County Hospital after they brought her out of the house, and the sheriff and the assistant chief pronounced her dead at the scene. And my daughter went to the hospital, and then from the hospital she went to Montgomery County's coroner's office. She was there, and I'm going to show the times and stuff. She was sent back to Fayette County. I'm going to prove and show what came back to Fayette County with my daughter's body. And then within 2.5 hours, she was sent back to Montgomery County. And then that's when they started conducting the investigation of her homicide. But I have documents right here that I can prove that she shouldn't have never went the first time to Montgomery County as an accident, and then sent back to Fayette County, and then sent back to Montgomery County as a murder victim. So I'm going to prove that tonight, and where I'm going to start is when the first call came into the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, 911 call, and everybody was dispatched to my daughter's crime scene. When the fire department got to the crime scene, and they started fighting the fire, and then they realized 20 minutes later that my daughter was in the house, they stopped everything they were doing. They proceeded to remove my daughter from the fire. They got my daughter out of that fire, brought her out. They loaded her up into the squad. I have the squad's report here, and it proves some things in that report that the Life Squad wrote in their report. But when they took my daughter, like I said, to the hospital, Vernon Stanford followed my child to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, Dr. Gay met them at the hospital. Why, I don't know why yet. I do have a report now that states it, but when they brought my daughter to the hospital, they checked my daughter into the emergency room, even though she was pronounced dead at the scene. And I have that document to prove it. I'm going to show it to you. Then Dr. Gay did his preliminary autopsy, whatever you want to call it, on my daughter, and determined what he could determine then, and then she was sent to Montgomery County. Right here is, in front of me, is the fire department's report. This is the fire department's report. And in this fire report, I will read what was wrote. And what it was wrote in here is Assistant Chief David L. McCarty and Sheriff Vernon Stanford pronounced her dead. Units continued on extinguishment during the investigation. Assistant Chief McCarty determined that the fire was set. McCarthy called for the Fire Marshal, Ron Steeman, and K-9 Unit, Stephen Sutherland, of the State Fire Marshal's Office. Now that's what they put in their report, right there. That's what's in the report. That I just read to you. So, already at the fire scene, the firemen already knew that the fire was set and that it was suspicious. So, by them knowing this, and then he said he contacted the fire marshal and the K-9 unit. The only reason he would pull the K-9 unit in is because you, as a fireman, you being assistant chief, you know that fuel or combustion was used to set this fire. So you already know this. You already made the announcement to Vernon Stanford that this fire was suspicious. This is at the crime scene. So, the fire marshal, he arrived at the scene at 4:32 a.m. This is the fire marshal's documents right here. And he arrived at the scene at 4:32 a.m. Right here, 4:32 a.m. And he left the scene, he cleared the scene at 1600. So whatever 1600 in military time is. But he cleared the scene at 1600. This is on 4/27/2006. He arrived at 4:32. My daughter did not arrive at the hospital until 3:20. 3:20 a.m. That's when she arrived at the hospital. Was at 3:20 a.m. So, before Vernon left, and he left the scene, let me go get the fire or the sheriff's report. Sheriff report. Right here's the sheriff's report. And he is car number 1. Right here's the sheriff report. He's car number 1, which is this top one right here where I got the check mark. It says that he arrived on scene at 2:25 and he cleared his car at 2:47. Now the EMT, and I'm going to show it right here. I'm putting all this together for everybody. This is the EMT's report. This is their report right here. EMT, where my daughter was in the back of the ambulance. Right here's their writing. And they left the scene. Let me flip my little light around here because I don't want to get anything wrong. Headed to the hospital at 2:47. The same time Vernon Stanford left the scene of the crime where my daughter was murdered at 2:47. So he followed the ambulance. So these two match. The sheriff report, the dispatch said that Vernon left the scene at 2:47. The ambulance left at 2:47, headed to the hospital. The ambulance arrived at the hospital on their end at 3:03. They got my daughter inside the hospital at 3:20. I know this is true because this is the ER paperwork that I got. And the ER paperwork says that she arrived at 3:20 inside the ER. So, they already knew that this was a suspicious crime. They already knew foul play was involved. They already knew this. So my question is, why did Dr. Gay and Vernon Stanford send my child to Montgomery County as an accident? And then Montgomery County, when they received it, and everybody that's been following this story knows that the coroner stated that when she came in, they did not know this was anything else other than a child that died accidentally in a fire. So they immediately, prepped her for the funeral home to come and pick her up. So that meant they washed all DNA away. All the DNA got washed away because they washed her body. They didn't do anything that they're supposed to do as you would do following protocol of a homicide. And 2 people in Fayette County knew this. 2 people in Fayette County, one is your sheriff and one is your coroner, knows what they do, the difference between a homicide and an accident. So those 2 already know what they do in a coroner's office, in a morgue. And to answer your question there, Holly, yes. And right here it even states on the ambulance, right here, the ambulance report, it says that Dr. Gay requested Mackenzie to be taken to the hospital. Even though they knew my daughter's body should have never left the scene of the crime. If you're a sheriff, trust me, you know the law. You know the protocols. You know that a body never leaves a scene until a coroner arrives to the scene, pronounces that person dead, and then starts his investigation. And when they contacted Dr. Gay, it was requested that he would meet my daughter at the hospital. Not at the crime scene, at the hospital. So, right there tells me they were covering something up because they knew. The firemen already told them this fire was set. That they were contacting the fire marshal and they were contacting the K9 unit at the fire marshal unit to come into this crime scene. So they already knew there was foul play. And then they still sent my daughter as an accident. But then I question that because Dr. Gay, in his report, says that he contacted Jim Brannon of the Montgomery County. When was that said? He could not enter the scene because it was unsafe. Was it that night or the next day? It was after he left the hospital and my daughter already was on her way to Montgomery County. He then went to the scene. So then it comes back here and he says right here, Dr. Gay does in his report, because of the estranged social situation of the mother and father, I am going to have an autopsy done. I discussed this case with the Montgomery County investigator, Jim Brannon. Now remember what the coroner said in Montgomery County. When the results came back, they were supposed to go to the investigator. That investigator in Montgomery County should have known that was coming back to him because Dr. Gay already contacted him to let him know what was going on. But still, the paperwork that went with my daughter said accidental. So then when the results came back and they said this child was sexually assaulted, somebody got that. Somebody made a phone call, and somebody was told to take that piece of paper and put it in her file. And then it sat for 6 years with anybody questioning it. So, you already got a fireman that already acknowledged that it was suspicious. He made contact with the sheriff's office, the sheriff himself, and let him know that this was a suspicious fire. Now, how do I also know that Vernon knows this was already a suspicious fire and my daughter shouldn't have never been sent as an accident? Is because when Vernon Stanforth and the 6 other cops came to my work to tell me my daughter was dead, he told me I could not go to the hospital and see my kid. That I needed to go home and be with my family, and that a preacher, which was his wife, and a deputy would be at my house. And my wife knows this is a fact. So here's my thing. If this would have been an accidental fire, they would not have cared that I went over to that hospital and saw my daughter and spent my family time with my daughter. No matter if I was crying, screaming, whatever, they would not deny me to go into that hospital and see my child. But they would tell me not to go in there and see my daughter if they knew it was a crime, because they wouldn't want anything to be contaminated. See, all hospitals have a little room that when you go to a hospital and somebody passes away or they bring somebody in that dies, they have a little room that they take the family in and they call a pastor in, and that pastor comes to the hospital and goes in that little room and, does the family meeting. They didn't give me that option. They told me to go home. But number 2, on top of that, my ex didn't go to the hospital. I didn't go to the hospital. So who identified my daughter to let them know that's Mackenzie Taylor Branham, that's my child? They didn't even give me that opportunity. So that tells me they already knew this was suspicious, that there was a crime committed. And we all know that Kenny was sent on the same day of the fire at 11 o'clock at night to take a lie detector test. So once again, they already knew this was a crime. So why did my daughter go to Montgomery County as an accident? Because I'll tell you why. Because they knew what they would do with my daughter. They knew they would wash her. They knew. And if everybody that was on here the other night when I played the coroner's tape, and he explained about my daughter's private area and why it was a sexual assault. Whoever did this ejaculated on my daughter. But guess what? By her going to Holly, I'm not going to sit here and argue. I know what I got. I have the facts in front of me. Alright, so, like I said, the thing of it is, when she went there, they knew to wash that body. They were going to wash her to get her prepped and ready for the funeral home, to pick her up, to bring her back to the funeral home. So, when I sit here and I think about that, and that's what they did, they washed her. Now, my daughter left Fayette County at 4:05 in the morning, headed to Montgomery County at 4:05. 4:05 she leaves. So at 4:05 she leaves, headed to Montgomery County. Now, here's these papers from Montgomery County. These papers are arrival, departure of the body. Okay, that's what these are. Alright, my daughter arrived at Montgomery County at 5:33 a.m. on April the 27th, 06. That's what time she arrived. At 12:39 in the afternoon, the funeral home was called. At 2:11 p.m. in the afternoon, the funeral home picked her up. Now, when they picked my daughter up, they sent her back with the funeral home with the clothing, the two earrings, metal earrings in her ears, the socks, the panties, and the tank top. Then they get a phone call. Did you do the swabs on Mackenzie? No, we didn't, because we didn't know to do it. Well, we need to send her back. So then they send her back. And you got to remember, at 2:11 they picked her up. She arrived back at Montgomery County at 5:24 p.m. So within 3 hours of picking her up, bringing her back to Fayette County, turning around, taking her back. So pretty much by the time they got back to Fayette County with her, they were turning around and taking her right back. When she arrived back in Montgomery County, she arrived with the clothing still on her. Now, they sent my daughter here, and there's a form right here. It says right here. I'll get this form out so I can show everybody. This is the form right here. Montgomery County Coroner's Office, Personal Effects Status. Right here, down here at this bottom piece right here, this area right here, it says, all clothing and property sent with remains. So the clothing and all that came back with her. So then when they sent her back, that's when they did the autopsy. That's when the clothing was held. And I have that form where the clothing was held. So, I don't understand that the reason that my daughter went as an accidental fire. I don't understand that. When they knew from the get-go it was suspicious. And to answer somebody's question on here, it said because of the strange social situation of the mother and father. Okay? Let me put it this way, and I'm going to say it real loud and clear so everybody can fucking hear this. Dr. Gay did not know me. Never met me in his entire fucking life. So how would he know that the mother and the father were having an estranged situation if he didn't go to the scene? The body went to the hospital where he met the body. So how would he have known there was an estranged situation if this man never met me? Obviously, the ambulance people didn't know me, so they obviously didn't walk in there and say, "Oh, by the way, Dr. Gay, the mom and the dad are not together. They don't live together. They're separated." See, what people don't understand, all that stuff comes after the investigation. So all that stuff comes after the investigation to why these people ain't together. Is there a situation to look at? So that tells me he don't know me. He don't know her. He don't technically even know my daughter. And so how can he make an accusation saying because of the strange situation of the mother and father, I'm asking for an autopsy? And if you look on here, it says, manner of death, likely an accident. So that's why Montgomery County, right there, likely an accident. Right there, likely an accident. Montgomery County decided it was an accident. It's in his own report. So yes, she was sent as an accident knowing it wasn't. It's in his own report. So right now, I can prove that they knew this was not an accident at 2:02 a.m. Not way after. At 2:02 a.m. when them firemen got to that scene and they knew that that was a suspicious fire, that's when they knew, right then, something was wrong. But Vernon, who was conducting this investigation at the time, and still tries to control it, he allowed her to go to the Montgomery County Coroner's Office as an accident. I don't care what anybody says. This whole case was screwed up at 2:02 in the morning. That's when it first started immediately being covered up. Then I try to figure out something else, and my mom, I see my mom's on here. I love her to death. She knows, and I know. You know, for the first 3 years, they tried their damnedest to put this on me. They tried to blame me. And then, now that I really got into it and digging into stuff and finding stuff and everything, I figured it out. Now I know why they were keeping the sexual assault quiet. I know why that lab tech stuck that piece of paper in that file and didn't say a fucking word about anything. Because Fayette County was going to put this fire and this death of my daughter on me. I was going to get blamed for this 100%. And the only thing that saved my ass was Dr. Kent Harshberger. When they found out she was sexually assaulted and they knew my DNA would be the only thing to clear me. And I'm going to tell you, I know this for a fact, because even after in 2009 when I was cleared of my daughter's death and of all wrongdoings, in 2012 when that DNA was found in her file, the first person they collected DNA from was me, the father. The first person they ran DNA on was me, the father. Even knowing I was cleared in 2009, they still was hoping they could pin this fire on me. I'm telling you guys, this is the God's honest truth. This is how crooked these son of a bitches are. They were going to put my ass away. If it had been just the fire only that killed my little girl, I would have been blamed for it because I was an ex and I was supposedly a jealous man. You know, I don't care. They would have put this on me. But what saved my ass from being set up and put in prison for my daughter's death was that DNA and me clearing that DNA. Then they knew there was no way they could pin this on me. And obviously we can all know that's the truth because, like I said, I've been interrogated, 6, 7 times. The mom and the boyfriend only has been once. It was their house, their fire, inside their home, my daughter in their home, and they ain't been nothing with them. 0. And I sat here today and I talked to a friend today, you know, and I thought, man, you know, wow, my life could have ended. I could be sitting in prison today. I could have been sitting in prison today. An innocent man. And charged with murdering my little girl and setting a fire to a house. And because I wouldn't have had money, because I don't have a lot of money and family with money, I'd have sat there trying to figure out a way to get myself out of there, knowing in my heart I never would have hurt my daughter. And that son of a bitch didn't give a fuck about that. He did not care if I was to be the one that was going to take the downfall and go to prison for this. But because of my little girl, and because of the strength of my little girl, the DNA saved my ass. No, they have not. They have only ran 3 people in 13 years DNA. And I was one of them, and then they checked 2 kids. 2 children. Well, they were adults when they got their DNA, but they were the same age as my daughter back in 2006. Those are the only 3 DNA that's been ran in 13 years. That just shows you right there what I have proven They started covering this up from the get-go. And that's what upsets me, is they were going to take my life away from my children and put this blame on me. And the saddest part of this is my daughter's DNA from her sexual assault is what saved me from going to prison. And I can tell you right now, by this coroner's report, that's exactly what they were doing, because even the sheriff's wife, who had no reason at all to give any statement, and it states right here, out of her own mouth, this is obtained from Joy Stanford, who was in charge of the program in the county where witness, victims, counseling, and social services are provided to people interacting with legal system. Okay, first of all, the coroner's at a crime scene. He would not even be talking to children's services or any of those. That all comes after the fact. That comes after the fact. But he's taking her statement at the scene. Joy states that the parents are still married but living apart. The mother has a boyfriend named Kenny Mossberger, who lives in the home with the deceased mother. Mary Branham and Donald Branham have 4 children together. 1 girl who is deceased, and then 3 boys. First of all, I ain't got 3 boys with Mary Ann. I got 2 boys with Mary Ann. So she already fucking lied. The 3 boys live with their father, and Mackenzie has been living with the mother for approximately 6 months. That's a lie, because I already proved that. My daughter started staying with her mom January the 5th. She was murdered April 27th. That is not 6 months. Joy stated that they started working things out and acting like adults. And for the most part, Mackenzie had been living with her mother since that point. Lie. Joy Stanford, Mackenzie has stated that she wanted to live with her mother. Lie. It is reported that the father, and then they put it in parentheses, hates the mother's boyfriend, Mr. Mossberger. Now, that's the statement that is given to a coroner at a crime scene where my daughter was sexually assaulted and an arson fire. The sheriff's wife. Already pointing fingers, but if it was an accident, you wouldn't give a rat's ass if me and the mother were separated or not. You would not care that we were separated. You would not care that I hated Kenny Mossberger if it was an accidental fire at their house. But if you knew it was a crime, you would try to point the finger at somebody. And the sheriff's wife did. Within hours, couple hours after the fire, yeah, you're already pointing the finger. So you're pointing the finger saying that I'm the reason Mackenzie's dead, but you're sending my child to the morgue as an accident. Which one is it? Which one is it? That tells me that the sheriff's wife already knew something before the fire marshal even got there and started the crime scene. They were trying to pin this fire on me. And because I was cleared, and because I was cleared in 2009, and then in 2012 when they asked me for my DNA, when they realized they had DNA 6 years later, I even passed that. But in the beginning, you all were pointing fingers at me. But you sent my child as an accident to the coroner's office. Sorry, but paperwork don't lie. Black and white don't lie. And then it even states here, Joy Stanford tells me, after her discussion with the mother, that they heard Mackenzie yelling back to them when they were yelling for her. It was reported to me that Sheriff Vernon Stanford that the reason the mother woke up was because she smelled smoke. No, that's not what she told the Wrecker Herald. She told the newspaper she woke up to popping and crackling noises, not smoke. She never said anything to the newspaper people 4.5 hours after my daughter's death that she woke up smelling smoke. She told them that she woke up to popping and crackling noises. Now my next question is, if they knew this was suspicious, then why in the world did they not send Marianne and Kenny immediately in, take photographs, get their clothes, collect their clothes from them, because they knew this was an arson, because they called the fire marshal. So why didn't they send them straight in? No, instead Vernon Stanford tells my ex, your daughter's dead, then allows them to get into a pickup truck that was part of the crime scene and leave and go home. Now, my next question. And I read this today to somebody, and I even showed it to somebody. This is the ER paperwork. Okay? The ER paperwork. Okay? And it said that my daughter arrived in the ER at 3:20 in the morning. But it also says, I want to make sure everybody can hopefully see it. I'm going to fold it up. Right here. Right there. And right in here. Right there, it says my daughter discharged herself from the ER. How does an 8-year-old that's dead discharge themselves out of the ER room? States it right there. At 3:28, my daughter discharged herself from the ER. The box is checked and everything. So how did my daughter, that's pronounced dead, at 2:39, at 3:28, she discharges herself from the ER room, emergency room? Don't make no sense. It don't make sense that they even brought her in the ER and registered my daughter. She was dead. She was pronounced dead at the scene. And that's what I said. How in the world can an investigator come in and work my daughter's case when you got people lying about everything that they did? You got a dead child at 8 years old discharging herself from the hospital, but she's dead. You got the coroner who was doing nothing that night at all. There was no other homicides, accidents, nobody at the hospital having surgery at that time in the morning. So why would the coroner tell them to bring my child and meet him at the hospital? Why did he not go to the crime scene, pronounce my child dead at the crime scene, and then do what he was supposed to do, since we don't have a morgue, he should have sent my daughter automatically to Montgomery County, because he would have been at the crime scene hearing the same thing that Vernon Stanford was told at the crime scene, and that we are now calling the fire marshal in to this scene because the fire was set. See, that's the whole thing. And by the sheriff following the ambulance together, because they both left at 2:47, and then him meeting the coroner, Vernon Stanford was calling the shots. Vernon Stanford was conducting this investigation. I'm telling you right now. And because he's dead, the coroner's dead, and because the lead detective's dead, it's easy for Vernon to point the finger at them and said they're the ones that made the errors. No, they didn't. Because your wife already put her 2 cents into it, and then you made sure that it went that way. And that's why I go back to, like the coroner said, there's no paperwork on who ordered the clothes to be destroyed. There's no paperwork on the DNA, because here's the thing. I don't know who made that phone call. I have no idea who made that phone call. Anybody could have got on that phone and said, hey, I'm Dr. Gay. For all I know, the mother could have been the one that made that phone call. I don't know. And we don't have no paperwork to prove who made the phone call to order those clothes to be destroyed. We don't know what Dr. Gay told Jim Brannon, the investigator at the Montgomery County Coroner's Office. We have no idea. And I know that my ex, see, that's another thing too. When my ex left and went to Kenny's family's house, even though her mother, father, brothers, and sister just lived right down the street, they still went 2 miles away from the scene. A certain family member, when they arrived to that house to check on their family member, my ex, they already took a shower. They already both had a shower already. So the evidence got washed right down the drain, just like the evidence got washed right off my daughter's body. And that's another thing that puzzles me too. The coroner and the detective take statements from the sheriff's wife. And in her statements, it has nothing to do with the fire. But 7 eyewitnesses that were standing outside watching the fire, trying to figure out a way to get to my daughter, before the first fire truck shows up to the scene, they don't talk to. They don't ask a single question from those 7 eyewitnesses who made the 911 call, who was standing outside and saw the fire turn the corner and start burning this side of the house. They don't even talk to him. Still today, 13 years, 7 eyewitnesses have never been spoken to. But they talk to the sheriff's wife. They get her statement, and it ain't even about the fucking fire. It's about my life. What kind of person she thought I was. All because She ran the visitation center to where the mother had to be supervised to see her children. She didn't put that in a statement. She didn't say, oh, by the way, the mother comes to my facility and she's supervised to see her children because she's a bad mom. I didn't see that wrote in there nowhere. Wait a minute, let me go back and make sure. I want to make sure, I didn't see nothing in there about the mother at all, that she was under supervised visitations. Supervised visitations. What's that tell you? It ain't nowhere in that report about the mother. It ain't nowhere in that report that the mother hated the father. That's what I said. They blame me from the get-go. This is a mother, and yeah, see, she's in charge of the visitation center, Joyce Stanford. She was involved with Children's Services, which was involved in our exchanging the children at the visitation center, but she never mentioned, and I have it. No, I don't have it. That's right. That was stolen from me. Probably from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office. But where my son came back to the visitation center on a weekend with the mom and had bruises all over his face, all over his chest, all over his arms, and she turned it into Children's Services. But that's nowhere in the fire report. That's nowhere in the fire report. She knows that also that my son was burned 9 inches across his back. But that's nowhere in the fire report. She also knows that my other son was cut 10 inches down his stomach, 5 puncture wounds in the care of the mother, but that's nowhere mentioned in the fire report. Nowhere mentioned in there of all the injuries to my child in the care of the mother is not mentioned nowhere in that coroner's report. But it's in the coroner's report that the father hates the boyfriend. The child didn't want to live with the dad. That the mother and the father were having conflict. And that's why they were at the visitation. No, we went to the visitation not because we were having conflict. Because I won custody of my children, and for the mother to be able and allowed to see the children, she had to be supervised. And not only did the Fayette County supervise her, but so did Montgomery County, where we finally got our divorce. Even another county put her under supervised visitations. And then not only was she under supervised visitations, she eventually lost all rights to my children, to the 2 boys that were still alive. But none of that is mentioned in that friggin' report. None of that is mentioned. None. And being that she was in charge of the Fayette County Visitation Center, to where parents that don't get along exchange their children, but that's not what always the case is. She knew all this. It was in our files. She was at some of the court hearings. She had to send over paperwork. So she knew that out of 4 different incidents, the mother was, that my children were in her care, my children were hurt. She also knew about my daughter's wetting the bed. She also knew about my daughter, Kenny, the boyfriend, making my daughter sleep in her urine and putting her urine panties on her face over her head. She knew all this, but nowhere is it mentioned in that fucking statement that the coroner took from the sheriff's wife at the crime scene. Not one incident about that mother is in there. All about the father. The father who had custody of his children. I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. So, like I said tonight, my main thing was, I'm trying to watch the time, the main thing was to prove that they already knew this ahead of time. And this, I don't care how anybody looks at this, this was covered up. This was a cover-up from the get-go. And it's sad that my other children, my boys who at the time needed me, because I was there for them. See, I was there at the funeral with them. Some of these people that's on my live feed was at that funeral. I literally sat in front of my daughter with both my boys on both my knees, bawling our eyes out, and the mother never shed a tear, sitting right beside her boyfriend. Never got up, never came down, never asked me, hey, do you want me to get one of the boys from you? Nothing at all. None. Zero. But I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad dad. But I didn't go on vacation right after I buried my daughter and go down there and party in South Carolina and in Myrtle Beach. She didn't even care to stick around to make sure her two boys were all right when they found out that their sister had been murdered. Instead, she packs up, heads to Myrtle Beach, and goes on vacation. Goes on vacation. And then spends a whole 25 cents to send them a postcard saying, Mommy loves you, I'm thinking about you. While she's with her boyfriend, knowing that her daughter was sexually assaulted and murdered, and her house set on fire, she's on vacation with her boyfriend, living it up, having a good time, paying $1,000 for a condo to look at the ocean in South Carolina and to go on a poker run, to ride their motorcycles. And her two sons are back here with the father that's being accused of this, crying their eyes out every day, knowing that their sister is not going to be there, that they're not going to be able to play with their sister anymore. And then comes back, and then comes back, and then tries to ask me if she could see the kids. Are you fucking crazy? She's a fucking nut. She is crazy. And then I got a sheriff in this town that's going to sit here and tell me there ain't no person of interest and there ain't no suspects. What he needs to do, he needs to add his ass to the suspect list. That's what the sheriff needs to do. He needs to add himself to that suspect list. But I sat here yesterday, after listening to that tape, to what the coroner had to say, to him explaining the most respectful way he could to what happened to my daughter down in that area, to why the sexual assault, to know that they have DNA, to know it's male DNA. I sit here and I wonder every day, how hard is it to run people, check their DNA, and start eliminating them? And then I thought about it. And I said, well, hell, I know why they're not doing it. You know, they try to accuse this, blame me for this. And then the DNA cleared me, even though I was already cleared by ATF and the fire marshal. But they knew I'm stuck right now. They know I'm stuck. That I can't figure out which male out of that side is the one that sexually assaulted my daughter. And as long as they not eliminate people, I'm still at the guessing game. I'm still trying to figure out whose sorry ass is the worst one that could have done this to my little girl. And I got 11 names, and I'm stuck because I don't. But if they started to eliminate people, I guarantee you one of those 11 is one of the names that did it. And as they come down eliminating people, it's going to get closer to who I think it is. And I'm already going to know who it is before they do, because I investigated my daughter's homicide. So I sit here and I thought about that, and that's the truth. That's why they're not running DNA. It keeps me stuck to I don't know which one it is. And I wish to God that they would say anybody could collect DNA from somebody and take it over and we'll run it. Because if that was true, I'd already went to Tip City, Kentucky, and Washington Courthouse, and I'd started punching people in the fucking nose and got their blood on me and then said, here, take this DNA off my skin and run it. So, you know, if I could do that, man, I'd have been all over it. But I think it's sad that they lowered themselves down to the people that did this to my daughter. They lowered themselves down. Your law enforcement lowered themselves down to that level to try to pin this on somebody they knew was innocent, that they knew loved their children. They lowered themselves to that standard. And they're no better than the ones that killed and sexually assaulted my little girl. They're no better than them. And that's why I said, when I take down the ones that did this to my daughter, I'm going to take them all down, including the ones that try to cover this up. They're going down. All I can sit here and say to everybody, they messed up because they fucked with the wrong father when it comes to my children. They fucked with the wrong father. Not a man, not a dad, a father. That was their mistake that they made. And like I said, all the evidence is right there in black and white. Right there, I just proved to you all that they knew that this was already a crime before my daughter was even sent to Montgomery County. And what Vernon should have done is his ass should have left that hospital, and he should have marched his ass right back down to that crime scene, and he should have put handcuffs on 2 individual people, and he should have took their asses immediately in and started an interrogation. But instead, his department, remember, they believe in the 3-day sleep cycle, where they let people go home and sleep for 3 days before they question them. So that way they can get their alibi together and their story straight. And even though the mother thought she could get her story straight, still today she can't get her story straight. So, all I got to say is Fayette County failed my daughter justice. I can't read no more. My thing froze up. My, where you read people's comments. So, like I said, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop fighting for justice for my daughter. I am not going to put it out there who in the world is behind the corruption of this. I'm not going to stop it. And if they don't want to talk to me, that's fine. Don't talk to me. Don't answer my question. That's the embarrassment. You can't even face me, Fayette County, and answer my question because you don't want to be embarrassed that you don't have an answer to what I want to ask you. And because I asked for this to be done, in the public eye, that even made it worse because you don't want the public to see me and you talking and me asking you these questions. That's an embarrassment. That's an embarrassment. And that's why you should not be sheriff. That's why you should have been removed. But Fayette County protected you for right now. Remember what the prosecutor said. I don't work for you. I am for your daughter and for the Fayette County Sheriff's Office. That's what that prosecutor said. So remember that in 2020 when he's asking for people's votes to become prosecutor again. He don't represent the victim's family. He represents the sheriff's office. Now, there's a thing I've been doing, and I want everybody to know. I have been buying children jewelry. I think it's paparazzi, and it's Kelly and Matthew Barnhill that has this jewelry on there, and they have a lot of kids' jewelry too. And I've been buying up purple butterflies, purple rings, all kinds of earrings and stuff. And I'm gonna start doing something on my live feeds, and I want anyone out there that has little girls. These gifts are gonna be sent to you for your daughters. In memory of Mackenzie. And, but if you want to, it'd be great, if you could go out and check out her site. It's Kelly, and Matthew Barnhill. And, she's on Facebook, and she saves a lot of the purple kids' jewelry for me, because I want to start, giving children, little girls, I'll have earrings, bracelets, and rings, and they're in memory of Mackenzie. And I want everybody's little girls to have a part of Mackenzie. I know I have the bracelets and stuff, but I like to also offer. That's it, Kelly Downey and Matthew Barnhill. Kelly Downey and Matthew Barnhill. It's a great, they're wonderful people. They support Mackenzie. And like I said, I go on there and I get the kids' jewelry when she sells kids' jewelry. And it's only $1 a jewelry, $1 a piece. And I've got some rings and stuff, butterfly bracelets and stuff. And it's paparazzi jewelry. I see my mom still on there. I want to let her know I got a special ring for her, that's represents Mackenzie. Their hearts, their butterflies, pretty much everything that represents my daughter. and I want to start doing something on my live feed where I can get these out to some of your guys, some of my supporters, your guys' little girls, to remember Mackenzie by. So I'm doing that. But I'm going to keep working on this case. I am moving forward with some other things I can't discuss, sorry, with you guys right at this time. But I will in the future and discuss things. Like I said, I think about this every day, and when I start thinking and I start putting things together, things come out, and I'm able to go back and do this with you guys and share as much information as I can about my little girl's murder. And that's one of the things that means the most to me, is getting this solved and putting away the ones that did this so that they can't do this again to anybody else, and to also put away the people that thought they could protect the criminals on this. So it was just a short live feed tonight. Like I said, I just wanted to prove that they knew ahead of time before my daughter went to Montgomery County. And so that tells me they probably knew a lot more. And I say as I get further and further into this, I'm going to find out more. Somebody brought up an ideal to me, and I will come up with a date. I'm waiting on warm weather, but I am going to do a protest in Jeffersonville to where my daughter was murdered. It'll either be on the property of where Mackenzie was murdered, or it will be uptown in a lot there. I will get that information as soon as I can get the permission to do it. And I will be doing a protest in Jeffersonville, in her hometown, as soon as warm weather breaks. And hopefully a lot of you guys can come to that. I figured we would do a protest and then end up going, and then I would go, and then I want to go out and we'll do something at her grave for my daughter. And then, like I said, I'm also going to do something in Hyman Park here in Washington Courthouse on April 27th. That's a Saturday in memory of my daughter. So I got a couple events that'll be coming up. In the meanwhile, I'll also be buying as much as the kids' jewelry I can buy. And I'll have that stuff there, so if anybody comes with their child or whatever, I can give them a part of Mackenzie to you guys and to your children. So I appreciate it. I thank you guys so much. I love everybody. I'm not going to quit. I'm not giving up. I am who I am. If you don't like me, close your eyes, close your ears, is all I can say to do. And but I guarantee you, when this is all said and done, I'll guarantee you 110% I will prove the ones that were behind my daughter's death, the ones behind my daughter's sexual assault, and the ones that covered it up. I can guarantee you that. So thank you, you guys. I love you guys. You guys have a good night, and I will see you if something else comes up. Thank you.